Hello, welcome back to the Striker Growthcast, the show where we sit down with leaders who are transforming local service industries through craftsmanship, systems, and smart growth strategies. Today I'm joined by Jared Everett, CEO of Proficient Windows, a company known for premium window and door installations, top-tier craftsmanship, and a reputation for honesty, service, and exceptional results. We're going to be diving into Jared's journey and how he built Proficient Windows, built trust in such a competitive market. So let's jump right in. Jared, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right into it. How did Proficient Windows first get started?
Yeah, great question. So I had experience with a company with a similar business model. So it wasn't like I just kind of, hey, that's a good idea and jump into it and try it. I had worked in the industry for about 4 years before I started Proficient Windows. Now, it was a kind of a unique thing. A good friend that I grew up with, he invited me to join his business, his window company, with a similar business model that we use for Proficient Windows. And it was a fantastic opportunity for me. When we started, he had done $3 million in total revenue the 2 years he was in business before. And then in the about 4 years I was there, we did over $70 million in revenue. So it was a great opportunity to see what a business can look like, kind of like small ragtag group of guys, and then we're really scaling it. And I had the opportunity to develop into the regional director of all of that. So sales, training, recruiting, it all kind of fell under for me to go out on my own. And I didn't just set up shop next door. I moved from Utah all the way to Texas to start it, which definitely there were some good things with it and some unforeseen things. I thought that I would be able to put teams together much better than I was able to at the beginning, just because of what I was able to do out west. But I have a network out west. I didn't have one in Texas, so it was a little bit different approach to get things going. However, we were able to get things going. It just wasn't as fast as I had assumed with Texas. And then over time, I've had a lot of networking and things in the industry. So over the last 6 months or so, I've recruited an office from essentially two other companies, one in Utah, one in Arizona. So it's been part of how we've scaled and grown the business, is just kind of leveraging my already established network out west. So yeah.
So you've been in business for a year and a half. You've already built a multi-million-dollar business, which is impressive in its own self. When you first launched the business, what was the original vision, and has that evolved at all since?
I apologize, you broke up a little bit. Can you repeat that question?
I apologize. Yeah, maybe the connection's a little spotty. So you built a multi-million-dollar business in just a year and a half worth of time, which is impressive. When you first launched the business, what was the original vision of the business, and has that evolved since?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, it hasn't evolved much because I've had a lot of time in the industry. I've got an idea of how I want things to look. And so, starting it and what the vision was as compared to what it is, it's definitely, the way I've gotten here has looked a little bit different than I thought it would get here. It's different than I thought it would look like. However, I'm pretty much right where I wanted to be, if not a little bit better than I thought I would be at this point. So it's never going to be how you want it to be or how you think it's going to be, but as long as you have the right attitude and just keep putting one foot in front of the other, things tend to work out.
So for someone who hasn't worked with your company before, what makes Proficient Windows experience different from others in the industry?
So I would say what makes it different is integrity is our number one core value. And I'm really involved in our sales organization and teaching those guys to operate with integrity, designing our systems and processes to align with the sales process, because there's other companies with similar sales processes. However, the way they operate, the way that they kind of the back end, it doesn't align with what necessarily the sales reps are presenting on the front end. So there can be a disconnect, and over time you'll lose a little bit of confidence and conviction in what it is that you're doing and saying, because it may or may not necessarily be the reality of things when everything comes full circle. So something that we've really tried to do is design everything to where it aligns with what our reps are saying. So again, we can have the integrity with what we're saying to our customers. We can have the integrity, we can have the conviction, the confidence in our sales reps that they're not going to be misleading anybody. And it's not a big deal to design the operations and everything to align with that. I don't know what the disconnect is with a lot of companies with this, but for me, it's a pretty simple thing to just be honest and have integrity. And you can do it the right way. You just maybe have to do it a little bit better, right? Another thing that would separate us is leadership and training. I've been in this industry for a long time. I've had a lot of success stories myself, but more importantly, a lot of people that I've been able to help out, and just a very good track record of high performing individuals, good track record of top 1% in the industry type of individuals. And so by coming to Proficient Windows, it would be a great opportunity to not only be attached to an organization that has integrity, they have the training, they have the leadership. Also, for anybody that really makes moves in this business, the vision is to exit. So get to 100 million evaluation, we make the exit, all the big players in the business get equity as a part of that, and then we all ride off in the sunset together. So that's the vision.
That's the dream right there.
A dream is something that sounds nice. A vision is something that you can turn into reality. So that's the steps we're taking. That's the reality that we're creating right now.
Yeah, all right. I like that. So, the Windows and door space, as we know, is competitive, right? What are some of the biggest challenges, when growing in this industry has been?
Credibility, trust. When I started, I didn't even have a Google review. So I'm out there knocking doors, setting appointments, and most of them are canceling because it's one thing to be able to talk to people and all of this. It's another thing once they start researching your company, they can't find you on the Better Business Bureau. They can't find a Google review. You knocked on their door. That's our business model. So for all they know, we're a scamming company. So that was a kind of an uphill battle to get going, especially because I went to a market where I didn't know anybody. So it wasn't like I could, people knew who I was already. So that credibility's there. I mean, San Antonio compared to Utah, it's like another country. So getting out here and really making some adjustments in the market and everything. But yeah, the trust and credibility, that was really hard. But, getting things going and having a good attitude and making things happen without all of that, it was quite the task. But getting a bunch of positive Google reviews online, getting, Better Business Bureau, A rating on those things, they really go a long way in terms of just the established credibility. And then part of what we do is we put yard signs. So that really helps because it's kind of a layered effect of, we're knocking their doors, there's yard signs, we retarget their neighborhoods. We haven't started it yet, but some light like digital marketing that would help support the targeting of these areas. But yeah, at this point, we're to the point where we've established more credibility. And as we go through these areas, people know who we are now. And so it's hard to say you get a lot more deals because of it, because at the end of the day, if you have the right people, you're going to have the success regardless. It's just, what does it look like? I mean, how far uphill do these guys have to fight to get a deal done when the neighbor already got the windows and they were happy and it's literally a laydown, right? And if they're not happy, it's not going to be a laydown. So it just really helps support the operations on the back end and making sure all that stuff goes correctly. It really helps support the sales on the front end because the credibility and the trust is established, and you can get referrals and all those good things that come with a trusted company.
Okay, so how does the typical customer find you today? I mean, you said you haven't done digital marketing, or like, has it been word of mouth referrals, as you said, yard signs, Google, social media?
So
how do they find you?
The typical customer will find us. They don't find us, we find them. So again, the business model primarily is door knocking, and it's a great way to get established as a business, especially if you know that sort of industry, because there's really no overhead, because it's commission only. There's really no overhead attached to generating leads unless, of course, that lead turns into a sale. So it can really kind of help protect your bottom line as you get things established. And again, if you do have some fairly decent knowledge in the industry, you can implement those strategies. If you don't know what you're doing, it's a lot harder. If you've never knocked on anyone's door and you just cold knock someone's door with no experience, it's a lot different than someone with years of experience leading teams, doing tens of millions in revenue. So a little bit different aspect. Can you kind of circle back to the question? So I think I kind of lost track of what the question was.
Yeah, no, I mean, you certainly answered it. I mean, so when you find a client, what does that customer experience look like for them during when first contact to project completion?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess to elaborate a little further. So primarily we find the customers by ways of door knocking, but then we do get calls in off of signs, and that would be considered like our retail, right? So then we have like a retail department that would then run those appointments, people calling in off signs. But, it's never a perfect every time outcome. We do windows, so each individual window will have its own variable within a home. So say, we've sold somewhere around 300 projects in the last year. Average deal size probably has close to 10 windows. So, you're talking 3,000 windows. There's some variabilities there, and things don't always go 100% smooth, even though we wish they were. But for the most part, the experience is some nice young individual, not always young, sometimes we have some older individuals, but a nice individual knocks their door, is polite, is professional, offers them an opportunity to, take a look at what it is we have to offer. And then we consider them our directors. They go in there and run the appointment, and the way we train them, it's got to be all high fives, handshakes, and even hugs. If you feel like you just sold someone and not helped them, like you gotta look at your process, because we're not there to sell people, we're there to help people. And people, they're attracted to that sort of vibration. They're not attracted to the kind of slimy sales guy that's just in it for, his own benefit. We really try to, do it in a way where we're authentically trying to help these people. So the sales experience, that's second to none in terms of their experience there. But then we hand it over to operations. In operations, that's such an important thing, because sales guys, we're good at making everything sound good, and then, we're in and out, and then what happens? Who's making these phone calls? Who's scheduling the install? Who's handling issues? Who's following up on issues? So that has been a major point in the business that we've put a tremendous amount of effort and work into it over the last 6 months or so. When we were just a single market, it was really easy to manage all of that. But then you get, like I mentioned to you earlier, we're being considered for a national account right now. We're selling windows in somewhere around 8 different states. There's a lot of variabilities. Again, when you talk about just variabilities with windows, variabilities with different install crews, different install procedures depending on the state that you're in. There's just a lot that goes into it, and it's definitely, there's been some problems, but they're good problems, because they're the type of problems that allow us to understand what it is we need to do to provide that experience for our customers. So there's been some ebbs and flows in terms of, things are going really good with installs. Maybe things aren't going as good lately, but it's like, okay, what adjustments do we make? And with operations, you don't feel the effect of the work you put into operations right away. Usually it takes a couple months to feel it, because maybe we've implemented all these processes, but we don't have any installs coming up for another month or two. And then once those installs come in, then you can see the results of the efforts put in. So, and that's something to really remind the sales guys of, hey, there's a constant effort into operations, because for them, they take, hey, no one called us back for this, or whatever random things can happen. The sales guys will take the brunt of it up for the most part. And so we want them just focused on sales, get your next customer. We don't want customers having to call you wondering what's going on. So it's a huge responsibility and tremendous effort that we're putting in right now, but that's why we're getting into utilizing AI, because being able to scale a business in terms of communication, especially proactive communication. When you're scaling your business and your operations support staff isn't large enough, you're in reactive mode, and customers don't like that. You're not building very much credibility or anything like that. But by having, AI work with you, that can help be more proactive, communications, updates. There's so many things encompassing with it, to where, your overhead is going to be lower over time, and then the customer experience is going to be better over time. So that's something we're making huge investments in right now, is that's the future, and we're a young enough business. We're not stuck in any sort of way. And so we're just going to do it the way that, the current world is moving towards.
In your experience, what are homeowners looking for most today? Is it quality, transparency, speed, financing options? What do you think?
It's a combination. I think all of those. First and foremost, it comes with trust. They need to trust that, you're the individual that they're going to do this transaction with, because some of these window jobs we sell, they're upwards of $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Some of them, they're large projects, and we knock their door to get the lead. Trust is a major factor in having good representatives that they can fit, that can kind of invoke that trust with them. That's super important. And again, I feel like I kind of got off the question. What was the question again?
What are customers looking for most?
Yeah. So customers,
What's
first and
important?
foremost, they're looking for trust. They're looking for a company to trust, whether it's the individual that they make contact with, and then, they do their own research. They're looking up reviews, third-party reviews of the business. things like this, I think trust is probably number one, because that's what allows us to actually get in the door and sit at the kitchen table with them. And then beyond that, quality, because there's not a lot of, we're not pushing a bunch of quality on when we're setting the appointment. It's really just kind of generating some curiosity so they want to sit with us. And then that's when we kind of put the quality on them, because we have a lifetime warranty on everything. We do an install guarantee. We have some of the very best windows that money can buy, and we give them for some of the best price points you can get it for. And especially when you have the warranties and guarantees on the back end, there's not a better window deal that you can get. It's a value proposition though. It's not just money, because if you look in just, dollar amounts, that's not necessarily what we're offering. We're offering an experience, a service, if you will. So that's an important aspect. So trust, quality. And then beyond that, financing, that's a huge thing, because these are large ticket items. Not everybody has funds to be able to pay for these things. So having some really good flexible financing options that can fit into people's budgets, that's an important thing. And what's cool and unique about Windows, especially like a door-to-door aspect, because if you were to compare it to solar or maybe something else, with Windows you don't have to do all the windows for you to get the sale. You can do half the home, you can do a quarter of the home, you can do some sliding doors. So there's a lot of kind of in between where you don't have to do entire projects, and you can finance with 0%, low payment options, to where there's a lot of variables, a lot of unique options that you can get creative and help people get into some windows and get their problem solved. So the financing is super important, because that just gives them the option to be able to make it happen. And then the last thing would be how the operations goes. And the operations, it's kind of a flow that gets you to that, but the operations is probably the most important thing, because that's what the experience is, that's the communication, that's the outcome, that's where the reviews, that's where the referrals, that's where the credibility comes from. So that's the most important thing, but that's the last thing kind of in that flow, because they're not experiencing that until the last thing, but that is the most important.
Now kind of transitioning towards the tech side of things, a lot of home service companies are leaning into automation and tech to stay ahead, as well as AI. How have you guys experimented with AI? And I know you said it's already in your CRM, but have you thought about kind of inputting it in other parts of your business?
Yeah, so honestly, as far as content creation, customer interfacing, basically anything that we can have AI support us with, we want to do it. Now, it's kind of an interesting thing, because at this point, the way things are moving, there's a lot of people that would otherwise have these jobs that won't have these jobs. But at the same time, what I tell people, it's like, hey, you're not going to lose your job to AI, you're going to lose your job to someone who uses AI. So, if you're in a situation where you feel like your job is kind of, you're one of those people that it could be taken, we'll figure out how you can utilize it. And that can be an assistant to do the job, an assistant that's actually better than you are. So we're kind of beginning stages, dealt with some different CRMs, none of which with AI involved with it, just been kind of like, hey, this is where we're going to move towards. And then we recently onboarded a CRM that has a lot of AI abilities within it. And so it's a process. You don't just start the system and it just starts working. There's some learning over time. You have to train the system. It's kind of a step-by-step process, but then you get it to the point over time where, it's managing. It can manage phone calls for you, emails, texts, and I don't know if you've probably heard some of the recent AI abilities in terms of sales calls and things like this. They sound, it's getting to the point where it's hard to tell the difference and how much longer to wait you can. And we'll have AI aspects attached to our sales process. We'll have AI sales agents eventually. So the door-to-door, it's hard to project when something like that could be taken away from AI, because at the end of the day, there's this human approach where we actually go knock on their door. It's physical. It's so I don't know. Door-to-door industry will probably be good for a while, just because there's some unique dynamics, but future generations, maybe there's the generations that are kids now in the future, it's not going to really be a thing for them. But my expectation, about 20, 30 years, you'd probably still be able to get away with door-to-door, but I have no idea.
So, looking ahead 6 to 12 months, what are some of your biggest goals for Proficient Windows?
So for Proficient Windows right now, the biggest thing is we're just establishing the foundation, because it can be really easy to kind of grow, upwards. But if you don't really build out the foundation, you can get kind of top heavy. And so we've had a great problem of growing really fast and, starting to feeling a little bit top heavy. So really right now, what the biggest push for Proficient Windows is operations, just to get that stuff really dialed in. So say 6-8 months from now, we'll have several more support staff with our operations, just because we don't feel like the AI is at the point now where we can lean on it like that. And so we'll have several more operations people, potentially one more office. I'm not trying to push another office right away, because I want to develop the guys within these offices to develop the guys underneath them to where it's more of a scalable approach. So next 6 to 8 months, I mean, there's not tremendous huge goals. It's really like just shoring everything up, getting checks and balances, everything kind of really well structured systems and processes. And so by the time we get towards the end of 2026, that's when we're really looking to push into new markets, new offices. So I would say the year goal is going to be where we're really growing the business in terms of revenue and markets. But in the intermediate, it's really like we got to get ready for it. We got to prepare the boats.
Absolutely. So as we kind of start to close this out, what excites you most about the future of your business and really the home improvement industry as a whole?
What excites me most about my business is it's just a great opportunity for people to be able to make a lot of money, and not only make money, but be around a good environment of people to change their life. Again, I've been in this industry doing things like this. At this point, it's almost 6 years, and you lose track of the people you have impact on over time. Again, when you have leadership and training and all of these things, you can really change the outcome and trajectory of certain individuals' lives. Not everyone, but certain people, you can really help them out. So I'm really excited about the amount of people that are going to benefit from just Proficient Windows success, because whether they're customers having great experiences, getting their windows done, something they know they need to get done anyway, someone's going to do it, might as well be us. And we want to do it to where it's a world-class experience, white glove treatment for everyone. So I'm excited about our customer experience. I'm excited about the experience of the people that work for Proficient Windows. And I'm just excited to put in the work and get to the point where I earn my time off, because I'm not there yet.
Absolutely. So as we like to close these out, I like to ask my business owners, rapid fire questions. Nothing, just simple questions you can answer in one word or one sentence less. Super simple. So would you consider yourself a morning person or a night owl?
Both. I sleep like 4 hours a night.
What's your favorite business tool or app right now?
That is a great question. I mean, right now it's probably, at this current moment, it's our recording app for our sales reps, because there's a bunch of AI built into that, and it's giving these guys coaching like just as good or better than I can give them. So I'm really excited about that aspect, but I would imagine over the next couple of months that'll transition into the AI we're getting out of our CRM.
One word your team would
use. AI
is
what we're most excited about. Sorry, what was that question?
One word your team would use to describe you.
Oh, man, experienced.
What advice do you ever receive?
These are good questions, man. And they're rapid fire, and I'm not coming up with rapid answers.
Oh, it's okay. No pressure.
It's interesting because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's really difficult for me to say, hey, it's one thing. I mean, if you just look at my phone, there's hundreds of screenshots of quotes and just different things. So it's really hard to kind of really put it on one thing. But, my mom actually gave me some decent advice business-wise not long ago. I took the advice, and it wasn't what I was planning on doing, but she had given me the advice, and it kind of opened up this entire kind of realization of certain things. And the more I explored that, the more it made sense to go with her advice. And in making that decision, we've essentially doubled revenue since then. And my mom has nothing to do with any of this stuff. I was just candidly talking about some stuff, and she just came out of nowhere with some motherly advice that really was exactly what I needed when I needed it. So it's hard to say best advice I've ever got, but the best recent advice, you got it from my mom, and she basically told me to fire someone, and I fired him, and it was probably the best decision that I made.
Okay. A favorite way to unwind after a long?
Favorite way to unwind? Honestly, if I could just put on a nature documentary and eat a snack, that's my thing. I love animals. I love food.
Planet Earth.
Yep, something like that. Some David Attenborough just lulling me to sleep.
Most underrated part of most underrated skill in your industry?
Most underrated skill, the skill to be accountable and take ownership, extreme ownership. Because whether you're in operations, you're in sales, you're an installer, it's very easy to point the finger at things and always place the blame in everything. At the end of the day, there's usually something you could have done to avoid that. And if you stop always trying to point the finger and just do some personal reflection and some accountability, you are far better off than just trying to, make yourself look good.
If you weren't owner of Proficient Windows, what do you think you'd be doing?
Well, if I wasn't owner of Proficient Windows, I'd be owner of another window company. No, I would definitely be a
Let's
business
just
owner.
say other industry.
Yeah, so even before I got into Windows, I'd started a business. I didn't operate for too long, but I was in like home technology before. So anything involving like home automation, surveillance security, surround sound, distributed audio, things like this, that was kind of my specialty before. And I never wanted to get into business with it because the profit margins aren't great. It's technology. There's a lot of situations where you have to go back, and there's only so many times you can perform service work before you're just kind of not even making money on the job. So it was really like I started that business and I wasn't too happy about just kind of the whole big picture of stuff, but that's what I knew. And then getting into Windows, it was like as long as you got a good product with a good install, it's a high ticket item, a good profit margin, and as long as you do it the right way, you don't really have the variability of technology. So for me, Windows is perfect, and I probably wouldn't do anything else but Windows.
Great. Well, that's a perfect spot to end it on there. So we're going to wrap up today's episode of the Striker Growthcast. A huge thank you to Jared for sharing his journey and his philosophy behind building the Proficient Windows into a trusted, high-quality service brand. If you got value from this conversation, be sure to hit the follow button to share with someone who loves business, craftsmanship, and growth. My name is Drew, and I'll see you next time on the Striker Growthcast.